All right, let's bring in our political panel. With us today is the Vogel Group principal, Matt Keelen, and former Obama campaign foreign policy advisor, David Tafuri. Matt, David, thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
No shortage of news. No shortage of things to follow. And I think what many of us are watching for, David, is the VP's pick, because it could have a significant impact on the race. And there's been some discussion that she might try to pick a moderate candidate to try to sort of moderate the ticket. Interestingly enough, though, yesterday, the Philly mayor posted a video to her campaign Twitter account that lent itself to quite a bit of speculation that this might end up being Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. I want to just play for you a piece of that.
Kamala Harris is on the road to victory, and I can't think of a better partner than our governor. Kamala Harris for president, Josh Shapiro for vice president. Now we need you. Let us and Kamala Harris know you stand with her. Together, we can do this. We are one.
What does it mean?
You know, I'm not sure. I think it's hard to figure out what Kamala is going to do, because we don't know what her objective is here. If her objective is to win a key swing state, then she very well may pick Shapiro, because Pennsylvania is almost a must-win for the Democrats, and Shapiro will help there. If instead she wants to balance the ticket, maybe with someone from the South, someone who appeals to moderates and to independents, she might pick Beshear in Kentucky, because he has that crossover appeal. If she wants a little bit of both, maybe Senator Mark Kelly in Arizona. It is a swing state. He also helps balance the ticket as well.
Well, it would be quite a thing for the Philly mayor, who's about to host the VP and her yet-to-be-named running mate on Tuesday, days from now in her city, to put this video out on a Friday with the possibility it doesn't end up being Shapiro, who's right on the stage next to her. I mean, that's pretty bold.
Pretty awkward. You know, I do think the vice president has a difficult decision, because at the end of the day, this campaign is still the same. The blue wall has to hold, and if the blue wall doesn't hold, she's not going to get elected. And she's still currently running at least a couple of points behind in most of those states. So if I were her, I would be looking at those states and trying to shore up those states. But each pick, when you pick that person, hurts you someplace else. So she does have a difficult decision in front of her, and I don't think at the end of the day her pick is going to make that much of a difference, because the issues are losing issues for her. And if she does happen to pick a senator who voted on those issues, it's only going to compound the problem that they have with the inflation, with immigration, with all the things that those Democratic senators have voted on. And she cast the tie-breaking vote for.
We've heard a lot of discussion that perhaps Chuck Schumer doesn't want it to be Mark Kelly, because it would make it difficult for Democrats to control the Senate if they had to do a special election. We've also heard some reporting that Harris is really looking for a governor because they have balanced a budget in their state and bring some executive leadership. But to your point about the issues, President Trump has had a tough time, I think, maintaining focus on those issues that he'd like to draw the most attention to. And really quite a stir over the comments at the NABJ earlier this week. I just want to play that for you and have you react.
You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? For you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work, in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
So he goes into the discussion about Kamala Harris's blackness and then doubles down on it. How would you advise that his campaign recover from that discussion? Because it looks like lately they have been leaning in and talking about it, you know, in a defensive way. Is that helpful?
Well, I think they're going to switch back to the issues today in Georgia, and that's what they're going to focus on for the rest of this campaign. Again, the issues set issue after issue. The Biden-Harris administration is underwater, and Vice President Harris doesn't offer anything different than what Joe Biden has given the American people for 4 years. And clearly the American people don't want another 4 years of this. He has to focus like a laser on, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Because he actually has a body of work, his own body of work, that people compare the Biden-Harris agenda to his. And most people still in polling say overwhelmingly they prefer a Trump presidency to a Biden-Harris another 4 years. It's been a disaster. Look at the world today. The world's on fire. We're about to have a major war in the Middle East. The economy is a mess. We've had 10 million illegal immigrants come across the border, half of which we don't know who they are, where they are, what they're up to. And crime is rampant. So if Trump and Vance can keep this about issues, they're going to win in a landslide. Speaking
of the Middle East, because obviously today at the rally, the Trump-Vance rally in Atlanta, there's a DNC billboard that's trying to sort of bring the discussion back to the issues that I think help Democrats in the messaging in this particular news cycle. But what we're not hearing from Kamala Harris in this moment is a clear expression of her policy and how it might be different from the one she's carrying out under Joe Biden. And as these events in the Middle East get hotter, how important is it going to be for her to really articulate what her approach would be if she were in office?
I think it's going to be really important. You know, with the targeting of Hania, who is the political leader of Hamas, things have changed. He was the head negotiator for a ceasefire, and I think we were getting really close to a ceasefire. There's just some things that had to be worked out over the initial 6-week interim ceasefire and whether Israel could still go in and do military operations. It was probably going to be ironed out with Hania as the lead. Israel decided to take him out. Now we're probably not going to have a ceasefire this summer, especially because we don't even have someone on the Hamas side of the table. I think Democrats, the Biden administration, and the Kamala Harris campaign really wanted a ceasefire this summer. I think it's going to be dangerous if universities reopen in September and we don't have a ceasefire. There's more atrocities in Gaza. There could be protests. That won't be good for the Harris campaign. So I think both the Biden administration and the Harris campaign should be pushing as hard as possible to get the ceasefire discussions back on track. If they can accomplish that, and if they can get a ceasefire, especially in early September, that would be great.
Speaking of the killing of Hania, I mean, the president was asked on the tarmac after the prisoner swap, does his killing make it harder for a ceasefire deal to happen? And the president said it doesn't help. At the same time, we're talking about the head of a terrorist organization, and conventional wisdom would say that with that guy dead, maybe the fighting stops. Should he have said that?
Absolutely not. And his policy on Iran has been horrible. He inherited a policy that Donald Trump had bankrupted Iran. Joe Biden gave them pallets of cash instead. So now they have money. People are buying their oil. Like, you couldn't come up with a worse policy if you tried. And now they're up against the wall because it's getting worse over there, and it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better. It was nice to see the president came out of the basement for a couple hours. Vice President Harris has been hiding for the last 12 days as well. Like, do we have an administration that can actually be president and vice president, or are we just going to have a campaign? Because the world's not waiting for Biden and Harris. Like, we need to see some action. We need to see some leadership. They've both been hiding. Like, Vice President Harris hasn't done an interview in 12 days. We haven't seen her. So she's going back to the basement strategy that Joe Biden had in 2020. And if the American people are going to get gaslit again by that type of strategy, then
we'll see. I mean, she's had some big crowds. We'll see how it shapes up. But we are out of time. Real quick though, just your bet. Who's it going to be? Real quick for VP. Who do you think?
I think it's going to be Walz.
Who do you think?
Bashir.
Interesting. All right, guys. Thank you so much, David, Matt. We'll talk to you again soon. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.